brokenness of our world is staggering. Every day, 13% of the world's population goes hungry. 1 person in 7 has no access to clean water for drinking, cooking, or washing. In sub-Saharan Africa alone, over 200 million people live in extreme poverty. In its quest to hasten the transformation needed to establish a food-secure Africa free from poverty and hunger, FANAPAN is making giant strides. This dynamic network draws on the world's foremost leadership prowess, intellectual resources, research and technological advances to address Africa's troublesome dilemmas. Its steadfast mission is to promote effective food, agriculture and natural resources policies.
We came for World Vision Lesotho.
We use the information generated from HVI assessments to assess the impact of climate change on livelihoods at household level. We all know that the majority of our households in rural Africa rely on rain-fed agriculture, which is very susceptible to the impact of erratic weather patterns like floods and droughts.
FANAPAN's Household Vulnerability Index, or HVI, is a statistical tool for measuring household vulnerability. This acclaimed tool has been successfully piloted in Southern Africa, resulting in the development of livelihoods databases on asset ownership by rural communities, which in turn are used to accurately inform policy. In partnership with World Vision in rural Lesotho, FANAPAN's HVI tool is used here to assess the degree of vulnerability in these impoverished households.
The HVI tool enables us to categorize households into 3 groups. The first group is low vulnerability category. These are households that are able to cope in the face of shocks without any need for external assistance. The second level is moderate vulnerability. These are households that are normally able to cope without external assistance, but if they are affected by an adverse shock or an external shock, they require temporary or transitory assistance for them to be able to cope with that shock. High vulnerability is the third category. These are households that are chronically poor and always require special social protection interventions for them to cope with the impact of extreme external shocks like disease, floods and other such.
Ke phela ka o tshwara diphijo jwalo ebe kwana ke kgona ho ja bana beso bana ba ka ba phela ka go ba fuwe diaparo ke metswalle ya bona jwalo ha ke na mokgwa wa o go nna ke ba thusa jwang le ntate ha kula jwalo ha na mokgwa wa o re na ka ya ngakeng jwang metsi ga hole ka qano dila kwana ke ka sebaka se setelele ke phela ka ntle ke pheya ka dibeso fatshe di gapane jwalo ka papatsi ya kile thabeng
ke 62 ha ke sana ntate na ka ona le mong o ja hlokahala ke na le phofolo le nngwe ya khomo le nku ile nngwe le khotse pedi ha hona mo e tlante ntate ke phela fela ka o sokola batho ke ne ke phela bophelo bo thata hobane ke phela ka ho hlatswetsa batho ke fumane hore ke bone na ke tla ja jwa ke ja selemo ho pota hobane jwale ka lebaka la ho ntlafala ha mmona mo ke le menteng polotong ena ya ka hoba jwale e le poloka mongobo o khona go mo dilo ntse le teng kana go tsohle ke ile ka ithuta na mona ho ntse fihla batho ba World Vision ba re ruta ka mantlwane gore re tshwanetse ho etsa mantlwane ha ke tla ha mantlwanyana ka mo ke bile ka magantlo ka tatsenya tse ke di entse mona ke etsetse molemong wa hore ke fumane metsi hobane ke le metsi a le hole hore ke bone hore ke khona le ho tshella mona ka ona ke bona le ho hlatswa ke a nwesetsa ke fa dikgoho ke fa diphoofolonyana tsa ka.
Masimo akho nala khatshana anganani ubukhulu?
Ama-acre ayi-3
acre
namanye aba-6
acres le 3 acres. Okay, wawusebenza kuqala usenzani lapho khona?
Isebenza siporowesha.
So imali othenga ngayo konke kokulimisa lokho yaphuma ngaphi?
Akile ndibe ndisebenza ngebesikhathi.
Aha, so wathenga usasebenza usesesiporo zonke izinto uzithenge usebenza usubuya lapha ubuye lapha ukuzohlala uretire nini umnyaka obuye ekhaya usungasasebenzi kuna 1993 but into zakho zonke bese right. Iyakuncedisa yini? Ikuncedisa njani?
Government incedisa nede kawunika leyo pension le kuphela.
I-grant le social grant le kuphela.
Manje ke nawo into ayenzile lamanje mfa kwendlu la. Mara ke izinanzika pipe sakona saba. Asesifile. Akunto akisana mata usilungisa.
As a world-renowned NGO focusing on the plight of children, World Vision used the statistics generated from the HVI assessments to improve their local child welfare programs.
When we learned about the HVI model, we were excited because the targeting probably that we were doing were not necessarily addressing the needs of the really and the most vulnerable people within the communities. And we felt like the HVI is a tool that is going to help us really identify who are the most vulnerable, who are the most that need some assistance, than when we just go in and we assume that everyone is vulnerable. And remember that the level of vulnerability is also not the same. And for us as World Vision, for us to do a proper programming, we need to know how to target in terms of these assets. In one household, it might be an issue of physical assets. In one household, it may be an issue of social assets. And the HVI tool was actually helping us to really get to the gist of getting the real information.
Although Lesotho is blessed with breathtaking mountains, the rugged terrain and inconsistent weather patterns in recent years have made conditions very tough for farming. In this regard, FANAPAN is contributing significantly with various climate-smart agriculture projects in association with the National University of Lesotho and local farmers.
The majority of households in Lesotho are actually employed in very climate-sensitive sectors such as agriculture and in fact in the natural resources and also wetlands. So you'll find out that these climate-sensitive sectors form the basic livelihoods for most Basotho.
My study will assist the farmers because they will have knowledge on the adaptation strategies that they could actually use in order to protect themselves against the impacts of climate change, to counteract the impacts of climate change.
As farmers, we will be ready to work very closely with the university. If indeed they are out there, they are prepared to help us, we will certainly help them as much as possible so that we can support them and participate in whatever training programs that they may be able to put across.
By actively facilitating linkages and partnerships between governments and civil society, building the capacity for policy analysis and policy dialogue, as well as supporting demand-driven policy research and analysis, FANAPAN is effectively influencing and affecting verifiable change in Africa. With this, the FANAPAN vision of a food-secure Africa without hunger and poverty can be achieved.